It is with great respect and admiration that we gather here tonight to honor a person who illustrates the ideals of compassion, dedication, and personalized care in our community. That person is Dr. Tom Sandell. Dr. Sandell, or Tom as he likes to be called, came from humble beginnings. It all started when his father and mother met in Owyhee, Nevada. His father was a metallurgical engineer, and his mother was a nurse, and they met while Tom's father was working as an engineer on a dam on the Owyhee River.
She was working on the Indian reservation at the hospital there, and he went there to work on the dam that they were building on the Owyhee River, and that's where they met. My brother and I were both born in Tonopah because that was where the hospital was, although we lived about 40 miles or so away from that. Well, the first 5 years were in Manhattan, Nevada.
Eventually, the family moved to Silverton, Colorado, where Tom spent his teen years and then eventually graduated from Silverton High School, where Tom played basketball. Fun in Silverton meant outdoor activities. Tom was active in the sports of fishing, hunting, skiing, and of course, camping.
Played basketball. It was the only sport we had in Silverton. If the snow melted early enough that we could practice, we had a baseball team, but that only happened about 2 of the 4 years I was there. Went to the University of Colorado right out of high school and did my undergraduate work there in Boulder. In fact, I worked in a boarding house to help pay my way.
Well, actually, we met on a double date. I was dating one of his then medical school fraternity brothers, and he was dating another gal, and it was really kind of fun because Tom had a real good sense of humor. My date didn't, so it was kind of fun. Anyway, we went out. That's how we met, and then a few weeks later he called me, and that's when we started to date.
It was in his last year of medical school that he met his now wife, Mary Jo, and they were married in September of 1961. Mary Jo remembers the proposal well.
I was living in an apartment. I had a roommate. We both worked at National Jewish Hospital at the time. And then he came over for dinner one evening and just popped the question, and I was kind of shocked. He said, "MJ, let's get married." And I said, "When?" and so then we talked about that, and 2 months later we were married.
At that time had what they called a senior student program, and I was actually a second lieutenant all through my senior year of medical school. And got paid as a second lieutenant and didn't even have a uniform, so that was pretty nice. Moved to Munich our last year, which was delightful. A 200 and some bed general hospital there or something, and it was really like having another year of internship because I really hadn't done a whole lot of medicine the prior 2 years. Done a lot of Army stuff, but not a whole lot of medicine. And then when I finished my tour there in Germany, I was discharged. That was the end of it. So,
I met Dr. Sandell in 1966. His sister-in-law happened to come in the office for an office visit, and she told me her brother-in-law was getting out of the Army and wanted to practice in Colorado. Dr. Lenardi and I had decided we needed some help, and so we interviewed him. Right off the bat, you could see he was pretty smart. So we had our interview. We told him we went to the office 5 days a week. We were there every Saturday morning. We saw our own patients in the emergency room and on house calls. And we also learned that he didn't play golf. Well, that didn't last too long. It was before long, we were covering his practice while he golfed.
we came to visit my brother and his family for Thanksgiving, and that's when I met Bill and Leo, and one thing led to another, and they offered me a job, and here we are.
There was no formal contract when Tom joined Dr. Leonardi and Dr. Mijos. It was a handshake and a gentleman's agreement.
One of the most important things, if you look at Tom and you know how hard he worked, he played as hard as he worked And one of the funniest things that I recall about Tom, because I played a little bit of golf and I enjoyed playing with Tom from time to time in the early days, but what I didn't realize was how crazy that Tom and Bill and Leo were as far as their spare time. And as the story goes, there were days during the summertime when they would all go out and play golf. And they would play it over their lunch hour. Now picture this, they would get out at 12:15 and they would come back at 1:30. And as the story goes, they would go right to the golf course. And I wouldn't have believed it if it weren't for the fact that it had actually been a part of that one day. I was invited to go with them. So picture this, they would get in the cart and they would all three drive on hole number one. And I think there were two carts, and I think Tom and I were in one cart. And they would drive the ball down the fairway, and Tom would say, "Here, drive the cart." It actually was Bill in this case, and Tom and Leo were in the other cart, and I would drive. Bill and Tom would literally jump out of the cart as it was moving, run over to the ball, take a club, hit the ball. The cart was moving. The cart never stopped. They would then run back, jump in the cart, go down to where their next lie was. And if you can picture this, they played 9 holes in about 45 minutes. I laugh about that every time I go out to the golf course. The term was polo golf.
Dr. Sandell is highly popular, well-rounded, and has an excellent sense of humor. An example of this is that I had a patient that I was doing an obstetrical workup on her one day, and she asked me, "How much do you charge to develop a baby?" I could hardly wait to ask Dr. Sandell what the answer would be. So I ran back to his part of the office and said, "Tom, some patient just asked me how much I charge to develop a baby." His answer was color or black and white. That was his sense of humor.
Couldn't be told, wouldn't be told, if it weren't for the fact that he had a woman standing next to him, which was as tenacious and strong and affable and good-humored as his wife, Mary Jo. My hat is off to you, Mary Jo. I still remember the many times in the hospital parties where Tom and Mary Jo would dance the night away, and I remember how much fun it was to spend those parties with them. Tom, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure working with you. And although we never got up to Brush Lake again, I'm ready, Tom. We'll have to bring our chainsaws with us, but anytime you're ready to fish in that lake, I'll be ready to go back with you.
Everyone knows Dr. Sandell is an excellent physician. He practiced obstetrics, pediatrics, internal medicine, and some surgery. He was good at all of it.
When I talk about Tom, obviously, he was a part of a very well-oiled, well-organized group of men, and they certainly were disciplined.
You know, that didn't stop. When he gets toward the end of his medical career, he serves 8 years on the hospital board of directors. And, you know, people don't realize how difficult that can be. People think, well, they just meet once a month and it's kind of a prestigious position, but they have innumerable meetings, subcommittee meetings, evening meetings, time away from your family, and even more in a small community, you meet people in Walmart and Safeway and on the street, and they have concerns. And Tom was always willing to stop and talk with folks and hear their concerns, and then if they were significant enough, bring them to the board. He was an excellent representative for the community on the board as well as for the medical staff. And then after that, he continues to be supportive of the hospital and is public service by serving many, many years on the Hospital Foundation Board. As we began to work together as colleagues, it became clear Tom's medical judgment was just excellent. He'd see a problem, analyze it, look at the options. If he felt he needed consultation, he never failed to get consultation when he thought was appropriate. And then he would act and do what he thought was right. Even further, as a leader of the medical staff, he was selected chief of staff. And some people say leading doctors is like herding cats, but Tom did it beautifully. He did it with no rancor. He had a great sense of humor, which helped a lot. And I think everybody respected him and still respects Tom and the time that he spent in his leadership positions at the hospital. The current Pope Francis was asked recently, how do you want to be remembered? And he thought for a minute and then looked to the reporter and said, he was a good guy and he did the best he could to make the world a little better. That's Tom Sandell. So Tom, warmest congratulations on an extremely well-deserved honor. Thank you for your service to me, to the medical community, and to the entire population of this county. Thank you very much.
Well, I think it turned out to be about as good as it could possibly be. I mean, for a community this size to have a hospital like that and the staff they have on it and that sort of thing is really rather remarkable.
It's been said that the commitment to your practice and our community is legendary. We are thankful for all that you have done, and we want to say thank you, Dr. Tom Sandell.